Hi. My name is Jack. I'm going to explain the different NHS pension schemes. There are 3 pension schemes, and staff could have service in more than one of them. The 3 schemes are called the 1995 scheme, the 2008 scheme, and the 2015 scheme. Let's start with the 1995 pension scheme. The 1995 scheme is a final salary scheme, which means your pension will be based on your salary at the time of retirement. The 1995 scheme is now closed, but staff who paid into the pension scheme prior to 2008 could have service built up in this scheme. You can see if you have service in this scheme by looking at your total reward statement on ESR. As the 1995 scheme is closed, you can't build up additional pension in this scheme. However, because this is a final salary scheme, the value of it increases each year as your salary goes up with the annual pay award. The normal retirement age in this scheme is 60, but staff can retire from aged 50 with a reduced pension. This scheme pays an automatic tax-free lump sum on retirement. The lump sum is usually 3 times the value of your annual pension, but staff can opt to have a bigger tax-free lump sum by giving up some of their pension. Your total reward statement will show you the current value of your lump sum. The 1995 scheme builds up service based on 1.25% of each year of pensionable service. For example, someone with 40 years of service would get a pension equivalent to half of their final salary, i.e., 40 years multiplied by 1.25%. This is an example of how the pension varies between the schemes. For each example, we are assuming an annual salary of £25,000 over 20 years of full-time pensionable service. In this example, someone with 20 years in the 1995 scheme would receive an annual pension of £6,250 each year for life, and a tax-free lump sum of £18,750. Let's move on to the 2008 scheme. This scheme is a final salary scheme and is also now closed. This differs to the 1995 scheme as the retirement age is 65 and this scheme does not automatically pay a lump sum. However, staff can buy a lump sum by selling some of their annual pension on retirement. Using our same example of someone earning £25,000 at the time of retirement, with 20 years of pensionable service, this scheme would pay an annual pension of £8,350 for life. Finally, let us look at the 2015 pension scheme. This is a career average pension scheme, which means your final pension is based on your earnings over the course of your employment rather than just your final salary. The retirement age in this scheme is linked to the state pension age and so is dependent on the year you were born. In the 2015 scheme, someone with average earnings of £25,000 each year, for 20 years, would get a pension of £9,250 a year. This slide shows you the contributions that employers pay into their company pension scheme. The government have set the minimum contribution by employers at 3%. By comparison, Tesco pay between 4% and 7.5%. The NHS far exceeds this with a contribution of 20.6%. For every £100 you earn, the NHS pays £20.60 towards your pension. This is one of the highest contribution levels in the country and makes the NHS pension scheme one of the best occupational pensions. This table shows the contributions paid by staff, depending on part-time annual earnings. Included in earnings as unsociable hours pay, for example night pay and weekend enhancements. Overtime is not included. Let's look at the example of someone with annual earnings of £25,000. This person would pay pension contributions at 7.7%. The contributions you make are tax-free and so the actual cost of these, after allowing for tax, is between 4% and 8%. This is an example of how much the contributions cost someone who earns £27,000 each year. If this individual pays into the pension scheme, they would pay pension contributions of £175. However, because pension deductions are tax-free, the individual would save over £50 a month in income tax compared to if they weren't in the pension scheme. They are paying contributions at 7.7%, but, after tax, it is only costing them 5.5%. Let's look at some example of pensions in the 3 different schemes. We'll start with the 1995 scheme. This is an example of someone with a salary of £28,000 and 20 years of full-time pensionable service. At age 60, they would receive an annual pension for life of £7,000, and a tax-free lump sum on retirement of £21,000. Moving on to the 2008 scheme. Someone retiring from this scheme at 65 with a salary of £28,000 and 20 years service would get an annual pension of £9,352, but no automatic tax-free lump sum. They could buy a lump sum by selling some of their pension on retirement. For every £1 of annual pension sold, you would get an extra £12 in lump sum. Now, let's look at an example from the 2015 pension scheme. Someone retiring here at state pension age with an average salary of £28,000 would see an annual pension of £10,370 a year. Please note that I said average earnings in this example, as this scheme is not based on final salary. This page shows the earnings each year over 20 years to get an annual pension of £10,370. This example assumes a pay increase of 2% each year. Staff can retire early in all three schemes and draw their pension before their normal retirement age. However, the pension is reduced when taken early. This is because it will be paid for longer. This slide shows how much the pension is reduced to if someone retires and draws their pension early. Let's have a look at how much the pension would reduce to if someone retired early in each of the three schemes. Starting with the 1995 scheme, if someone was to retire at 59, the pension would reduce to 95.5% of its value, and the lump sum would reduce to 97.7%. At age 58, the pension would reduce to 91.2%, and the lump sum to 95.4%. Moving on to the 2008 scheme. This has a normal retirement age of 65. If someone was to draw their 2008 pension at 64, it would reduce to 95.1%. Finally, the 2015 scheme has a retirement age linked to the state pension age. This is currently 66 but will increase to 67 in 2028. If you were to retire 1 year early, the value of your pension would reduce to 94.6%. That concludes our look at the NHS pension scheme. Don't forget, you can see the value of your pension by looking at your total reward statement on ESR. This is updated each summer. More details about the pension scheme can be found on the NHS Pension website. Finally, please contact payroll if you have any questions about your NHS pension.